Today we're talking about the 5 sacrifices an INFJ has to make in order to live their dream life. Because there are sacrifices that have to be made. There is a price that has to be paid. But it's a price so worth it. And until we get to a place where we say, I'd rather pay the price of blossoming up than paying the price of staying, small and stuck, we're always going to look for an excuse to continue our path and hope that things are just going to miraculously change. They're not. We do have to pay a price. But the good part is the price isn't that high, and it's something every INFJ can do. So today we're looking into the 5 main sacrifices every INFJ needs to make in order to live their dream life. Before we get started, remember the next INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp launches May 6th. So make sure you're on that waiting list. You get access to the early bird prize and get notified once we go live. We learn how to make the steps into living your INFJ Epic Life, how it works for INFJ, what works best, what strategies are tailored to INFJs in order to finally make the jump into the life you always wanted. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. Number 1, the INFJ needs to stop relying on others for excitement. This is something so many INFJs do, and I've done this thousands of times, that I thought I needed a person in my life in order to feel something. It doesn't have to be a relationship. It can be a friend. It can be, an acquaintance, but people around me that make me feel alive because they're all about action. They're all about living some kind of exciting life, and I'm just going to attach myself to them. But the truth is, as long as we rely on others for that, we're never going to take the steps necessary in order to create excitement for ourselves. We're never going to, create the space that is necessary for us to, push forward. I mean, you have to think of it like that. If you have people in your life who create excitement, you're always stimulated, but nothing is really happening. If you remove that stimulation, if you make your life rather boring, you're the one who creates the stimulation. You're the one who creates that exciting life. And this is something that comes from within. But you're never really going to give yourself the chance to bring that out if you're always relying on others to have, excitement, fun, making you feel alive, and so on. So one way or another, you have to make the conscious choice that you are going to be the one who creates excitement in your life, and you're not going to look for answers outside of yourself. Number 2, the INFJ has to take consistent action. And this is easier said than done. Everybody knows all you need is actually consistent action towards the life you always wanted, and things are going to happen. But for the INFJ, this is a particularly difficult area because we have so many visions, we have so many ideas. What we lack is to actually anchor them in, taking action towards where we want to go. And it's all about understanding that as long as you do things that are only in your mind, nothing is going to change. You can have the most brilliant idea in the world. As long as it stays in your mind, it's the same as if you never had it. And that's one of the main things we work on in bootcamp as well, is to learn how to take consistent action as an INFJ. Because it's all about creating an identity around being somebody who is taking consistent action. It doesn't have to be much, but it has to be something that you want to do. You can think of it like this. It's no work for you to brush your teeth. It's something that you do on a regular basis. Nobody has to remind you of it. It's just part of your identity. I am somebody who brushes my teeth regularly. And if I didn't do that, I would feel bad because my identity is based on I am somebody who brushes my teeth. The same thing goes for being somebody who takes consistent action. I always like to say, we as INFJs, we don't have to take all the steps. We just have to take the right steps. I know that taking action is difficult for us, but because it's difficult, we can decide to narrow it in on those steps that will make the difference. So no matter what you have going on in your life, if you have any kind of dream, you have to have something consistent that you're including into your life. Something that you do once a week that is getting you forward. You're writing on your book, you're applying for another job, you're improving the way you live, like something that just becomes part of your identity the more often you do it. And in order to make that happen, we have to take really small steps. This is super important for INFJs because if we take steps that are too big, we're just relying on discipline or, on willpower, and those things don't last. But if you go for identity change, you're set for life. Number three, disconnecting from others. So this isn't about disconnecting from others in order to avoid the excitement. This is to understand that we get so much of our emotional needs met by meeting others where they're at. So we actually become a byproduct of their life. We become a supporting role in their movie, and we're so good at it, and we get so much emotions out of that. But when you do that, you're never going to give yourself the opportunity to fill yourself up with whatever excites you, with whatever really gets your life going. You're going to be so focused on like what's going on left and right that you just don't have any mental capacity to focus on yourself. I used to be somebody who knew absolutely everything about my best friend. I knew when she got upset. I knew what kind of music she liked. I understood her, internal world so well. I don't know anything about her at that level now. And this has nothing to do with the fact that we're not that good friends anymore. It has everything to do with the fact that before we had a codependent relationship that was based on me focusing, all my energy onto somebody else and not on myself. And INFJs do that all the time. And nowadays, this could never happen because I filled myself up so much. I have learned what I like. I learned what music motivates me, what things make me happy. And we have to disconnect from others in order to give ourselves the room and the space to make that happen for ourselves. Because it's not just about excitement. It's not just about taking action. It's also about understanding your own emotions. And we cannot do that if we, fill ourselves up with everything that is going on in others' minds and with their emotions. So we have to make the sacrifice of knowing this is a connection I'm never going to have again. This type of intense relationship is something I've experienced in romantic relationships and friendships and maybe with family members, but it's something I'm willing to sacrifice in order to build something that is better. I have to let go of what I had, although it was good, in order to create something that is great. Number 4, we have to start focusing on TE, meaning extroverted thinking. So this is a sacrifice all INFJs have to learn because taking extroverted thinking into consideration is something we do not like to do. It's not something that is in our nature. It's something that we love to ignore. And if it was all about like doing fun things, this is probably the last thing that would be on our mind. So what is extrovert thinking all about in this particular example? It's about looking at externally observable facts, meaning you think you have a connection with somebody because, there was some kind of intense exchange, you feel it in their energy. But the externally observable fact is that person never called you again. That person didn't want to have any contact with you. That is a fact. That is something that is externally observable, and that is TE. It's pretty much objective logic. And we as INFJs are so good at creating our own logic. It's one of the reasons why we're able to create, something great out of nothing. Because we can make a system out of something that hasn't existed. We can give it meaning. We're like an AI in the sort that we create like this musical masterpiece that nobody's ever heard before because it doesn't rely on something that has already existed. This is similar to how the INFJ's logic works, right? We have our own set of rules, based on what we've experienced and what we know works and so on. And it's this amazing tool. But what is our downfall is that we don't set any boundaries on that. So we create this logic and we don't take into consideration that there are certain constraints. You can make it up in your mind that you have this perfect connection with this person, but if they don't want to call you, then this is a fact. And if you take those things into consideration, you're not going to waste your time on, scenarios that are not really helping you live out your best life. This is not something that only applies to relationships. This is also something like, if I apply myself at this job more and more, I will prove to people, how valuable I am, and you continue to put in the work. But the externally observable fact is they don't value you. They have never shown you that they value you, and chances are that they are not going to value you no matter how much you put in. So it's time to move on. So these are the type of sacrifices we have to make in order to move forward. We have to understand that on some level we have to take TE, meaning externally observable facts, into consideration. It doesn't have to be much, right? You can give yourself still a lot of room to, make things up, to create your own reality. Give yourself that room, because this is your genius. Just make sure that you include like 2 to 5% of those, externally observable facts, because they will help you to really stay on course and create something that can grow and that can, actually bring results into your life. And sacrifice number 5, every INFJ has to make in order to live their dream life, is to wake up. That's one of those things that is not just something you say. It really is a fact of life when it comes to INFJs. We have to wake up from the dream in order to live it. Because we as INFJs, we love to sit down, to think about things, to, have our thoughts and opinions about how things are working, how the world is. We make up like this story in our mind of how our life is. It could be like this novel, this exciting thing. And the truth is that if we live our life this way, then, the reality is our life is probably not moving forward. And for the longest time, I thought, okay, what's the problem here? Isn't the most important thing how I experience life? And if I experience my life as this great novel, like, why does it matter if it looks good in the real world? But the truth is, if your real life, so where you live, how you live, who you hang out with, what you do every day, if those things aren't in alignment with what you want in your life, you're going to be unhappy. So you might have this novel in your head, but it will be a sad novel. It might be, intense, but it will be sad. It might be something that is, extraordinary, but it's still not satisfying. So in order to live like a life we actually love, we have to step out of that fantasy in our mind, and we have to really get a little bit, boring, and to say, I'm going to take the necessary steps. It doesn't have to be much, as I said, but those steps are necessary for me to create a life that is more and more in alignment with how I want to experience life. And then you'll see that you don't have to create these amazing novels in your mind and, imagine how intense everything is, because your real life is already going towards the place and, the circumstance that you always wanted. So it actually mashes up together much more, and it becomes like this, connected thing that, you have an idea and you put it into life. You have something that you want to express and you do that. You have an idea how you want your life to be next year and you actually make it happen. We have to give up the fantasy in our mind and do some boring stuff, take some necessary steps in order to have like this exciting life all day, every day for the rest of our lives. Remember, if you want to learn how to take those steps, if you want to know what strategies work for the INFJ, then join the next INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp. You can join the waiting list at this time so you get access to the early bird code and get notified once we go live. Everything you need to know, you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the video when the INFJ finally accepts their mind-blowing nature. This is what happens.